It's
The
ready.
twin sons of Sarah
Please,
9 were
eat while
sinking,
it's warm.
staining the metallic dunes a molten violet as Kale Doran tightened the last coupling on a cracked vapor condenser. His workshop, half buried under the sand, trembled with every gust of wind that roared across the wasteland. He wiped the grime from his forehead with a rough hand, exhaling through gritted teeth. 15 years of combat engineering in the frontier wars had left him with scars that never quite faded, but his hands still obeyed him like old soldiers. The storm alarm flashed crimson. Kale looked up, saw the pressure gauge trembling in the danger zone, and cursed quietly. Great. Another one. He sealed the bunker doors, tightened the airlock, and dimmed the lights. Sandstorms on Sarah 9 weren't just a nuisance, they were lethal, microscopic glass grinding against lungs and metal alike. He poured himself a small glass of Ortis whiskey, its amber gleam reflected in his tired eyes. For a moment, he let the silence swallow him. Then, a knock. At first, Kale thought the storm was playing tricks on him. But it came again, 3 sharp taps against the metal door. He froze. No one in their right mind would be outside in this weather. Instinct took over. Kale reached under the counter for his sidearm, the compact pulse pistol that had saved his life more times than he could count. He crept to the door, boots silent on the grated floor, and activated the external camera. Static filled the monitor, but through the swirling grit he saw 3 small figures huddled together, 1 tall, 2 shorter, almost swallowed by the storm. He hesitated. Raiders sometimes used decoys, but raiders didn't bring children. Kale keyed the override and the heavy door shrieked open. The storm screamed in like an animal, pelting his face with sand. 3 shapes staggered inside, 2 children with lavender skin and hair white as frost, followed by an elderly woman leaning heavily on a cane. "Please," said the older girl in halting standard. "Our grandmother is sick. We need shelter." The younger one, barely 6 if human years meant anything here, clung to her sister's tunic. Their large opal eyes glowed faintly in the low light, catching every flicker of movement like mirrors of another world. Kale's jaw tightened. He'd seen Lemurians before, rarely, and never this far out. Their delicate, faintly luminescent skin marked them unmistakably. He stepped aside. "Get in. Quickly." They stumbled inside, coughing. The older woman nearly collapsed as Kale sealed the door, cutting off the storm's howl. He caught her just before she fell. Her skin felt cold and weightless, her breath shallow. "Thank you," she whispered, voice thin as dust. Kale guided her to the couch. "Name's Kale Doran," he said. "I am Eller of Alice," she replied, her lavender glow dimming with exhaustion. "These are my granddaughters, Lyra and Tira." The elder girl bowed her head cautiously, still protective. The little one, eyes wide with awe, wandered toward the flickering machinery. "Your kind don't usually come this far out," Kale said quietly. "What happened?" Ellera's breathing hitched. "We were attacked. Our settlement, gone." "By who?" Her granddaughter Lyra answered instead, voice trembling. "The Vorak. They came in the night." Kale felt an old chill settle in his bones. He knew that name too well. The Vorak were engineered predators, once unleashed by the hegemony during the war, biotech monsters that killed for sport. Supposedly contained now, but he'd never believed that story. Ellera coughed violently, a wet sound that made Kale wince. "They destroyed everything. My daughter stayed behind so we could escape." Kale said nothing, but something inside him shifted. He poured a cup of warm water and handed it to her. "You're safe here for now," he said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. He fixed a quick meal from ration packs, protein stew, reheated and bland. The Lemurians ate slowly, their movements graceful even in exhaustion. The soft lavender sheen of their skin pulsed gently as they relaxed, their bioluminescence was faint but mesmerizing. Afterward, Kale offered them his bedroom. He took the couch, pretending not to notice how the older girl lingered awake, eyes sharp and alert. He respected it. She reminded him of himself, someone who'd learned not to trust peace. The storm raged through the night, but inside the bunker, the hum of the air filters lulled him toward sleep. It had been years since another voice had echoed here, years since he'd felt anything resembling company. As he drifted off, he wondered how 3 strangers had crossed the desert only to find his door. He didn't have long to wonder. Cale awoke before dawn to a distant roar. Engines. Not the steady rhythm of a transport or cargo hauler, this was something heavier, more aggressive. His instincts snapped awake. He rolled off the couch, pulse pistol in hand, and checked the exterior feed. The storm had passed, leaving the desert calm and pale beneath the twin suns. 3 dark shapes were descending, ships, landing in a triangular formation just a few hundred meters away. He recognized the design immediately. Krell scavengers. Metal-bodied raiders that followed in the wake of destruction like vultures. Cale cursed under his breath. A soft sound behind him made him turn. Lyra stood there, her violet eyes wide with fear. "They found us," she whispered. "How?" "Our escape pod," she said bitterly. "It had a beacon we couldn't disable." Cale holstered his pistol long enough to open a locked cabinet beneath the workbench. The keypad beeped as he entered a code he hadn't used in years. The compartment hissed open to reveal worn combat armor, standard issue, pre-armistice. He hadn't planned on wearing it again. But plans had a way of dying young. Elora appeared in the doorway, leaning on Lyra for support. Her glow was faint now, nearly gone. "You should not risk yourself for us," she murmured. Cale snapped the final buckle on his chest plate. Too late for that. A tremor rattled the walls, impact. The scavengers were at the door. "Get to the panic shelter," Cale ordered, pointing toward a narrow hatch in the wall. "Reinforced and sealed. Don't come out unless I say so." Lyra hesitated. "You can't fight them alone." Cale offered a grim smile. "I've fought worse things than scavengers." The second impact bent the outer frame. Elora pressed a trembling hand to his armored arm. "Why?" she asked softly. He met her eyes. "Because it's what decent people do." He herded them into the shelter and sealed the door. A heartbeat later, the workshop entrance exploded inward, sparks flying. 6 Krell warriors stormed in, towering insectoid figures with 4 arms each, weapons grafted to their chitin bodies. Cale dropped to one knee, rifle up, breath steady. The first 3 entered cautiously. He waited until they were inside, then opened fire, controlled bursts, each shot finding its mark. The lead Krell fell with a shriek, yellow ichor splattering the wall. The others howled in their metallic language and returned fire. Plasma bolts scorched the air, burning deep gouges in the walls. Cale rolled behind his workbench, heart hammering, smoke stinging his eyes. "You have the Lemurians, human," one chittered through a broken translator. "Surrender them, and you may live." Cale barked a harsh laugh. "Not my style." He reached into his vest pocket and pulled a small disc, a sonic disruptor, tuned to Krell frequencies. He slid it across the floor and triggered it. A piercing hum erupted. The Krell staggered, clutching their head plates in agony. Cale rose from cover and fired 3 precise bursts, cutting down 2 more. The last one lunged through the haze, claws extended. The impact threw Cale against the wall. His rifle skittered away. The creature's claws closed around his throat, lifting him off the ground. "Where are they?" it hissed. Cale's vision dimmed, but his right hand found the knife sheath on his belt. He drove the blade up into the joint where its arm met its torso. The alien shrieked and dropped him. Cale rolled aside, grabbed his pistol, and emptied the magazine into the thing's skull. Silence fell. Only his ragged breathing and the hum of dying circuits filled the air. He limped toward the panic hatch and keyed the code. 7392. The door opened, revealing 3 frightened faces glowing faintly in the dim light. Lyra was first to move, taking in the wreckage. "You're hurt," she said softly. Kale glanced down at his leg, blood seeped from a deep gash where a claw had cut through the armor. "I've had worse." Little Tira darted forward and hugged him around the waist. "You saved us." Kale awkwardly patted her head. "Just keeping my workshop clean." But when he looked out through the shattered door and saw a sleek, silver ship descending through the dawn sky, his grip tightened. This wasn't over. Not yet. The silver ship sliced through the morning haze like a blade of light. Its hull shimmered with hues of violet and silver, graceful and silent as it descended onto the sand a short distance from the wreckage. Kale squinted through the glare. This was no scavenger vessel, its design was sleek, almost ceremonial. Elora, leaning on Lyra's shoulder, gasped softly. "That's a Lemurian diplomatic courier," she whispered. "It's from the capital, from our people." Before Kale could reply, a small figure darted past him, the little one, Tira. "Wait," he shouted, limping after her, but the child was already outside, running across the sand toward the ship, her white-tinted hair streaming like a comet's tail. The ship's ramp lowered, and a lone woman stepped out. Tall, elegant, her lavender skin glowing softly under the suns, her hair cascading in silver-violet waves that floated as if touched by invisible wind. She saw the child running toward her, and fell to her knees, arms open. "Mama!" Tira's cry echoed through the quiet desert. The woman caught her daughter in her arms, holding her so tightly it seemed she'd never let go. Lyra ran next, silent tears streaming down her cheeks, colliding with them in a tangle of arms and light. Elora watched from the bunker's threshold, her trembling hand rising to her lips. "Saren," she breathed, tears gathering in her opalescent eyes. "My daughter, she's alive." Kale helped her forward across the sand. She leaned heavily on his arm, her weight surprisingly light. When they reached the family, the woman rose, still holding her children. Her gaze lifted to meet Elora's, and for a heartbeat, the desert wind stilled. "Mother," she whispered. Her voice was like music, soft but resonant. She passed the children gently aside and embraced Elora, both women trembling. When she finally looked at Kale, her eyes, those luminous, silver opal eyes, focused on the human standing beside her family. "And you are?" she asked, her tone cautious but not cold. "Kale Doran," he said simply. "Your family found me during the storm." "He saved us," Lyra added quickly, stepping between them. "He fought off the scavengers." Saren's expression softened. "You risked your life for strangers." Kale gave a lopsided shrug. "Didn't seem right to do nothing." The faintest smile curved her lips. "Humans," she murmured. "Always running toward trouble." A sound from the horizon drew Kale's attention, the distant rumble of engines fading away. The scavenger ships were retreating, black smoke trailing behind them. For now, the sky was clear. "Your grandmother needs medical care," Saren said firmly. "My ship has a med bay." Kale nodded and moved to help Elora, who was already weakening again. Together, they guided her aboard the courier vessel. The interior was softly lit, all curves and shimmer, the air carrying a faint floral scent. The contrast with Kale's crude bunker made him feel like he'd stepped into another world. Saren laid her mother on a diagnostic bed. The smooth panels came alive with pale light as medical drones hummed to life, scanning the old Lemurian's frail form. Elora winced as the energy fields passed over her. "Don't worry, Mother," Saren said, taking her hand. "You're safe now." Kale stood awkwardly near the entrance, feeling out of place. His hands were still dirty with battle grime, his armor scorched. The children watched him curiously. "You have a kind heart, Kale Doran," Elora murmured, her voice weak but steady. Few humans would open their door in a storm. Kale didn't know what to say. He just nodded. "Guess I was tired of being alone." Saren turned toward him, folding her arms. You fought the Krell by yourself? He nodded. Didn't plan it that way. They weren't exactly here for tea. Saren studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she smiled, a small, genuine thing that reached her eyes. Then I owe you my thanks. And my respect. Kale felt a strange warmth rise in his chest. You don't owe me anything, he muttered. On my world, Saren said softly, a life saved creates a bond. We don't forget such things. Before Kale could respond, the ship trembled. The control console flickered with a new alert. Saren crossed the cabin in swift, practiced movements. What's wrong? He asked, instinctively moving to her side. Atmospheric patrol sweep, she said, scanning the data feed. Not ours. Could be a Krell distress beacon still active. Kale's instincts flared. They'll come back, and with friends. Then we leave, Saren replied. Elora stirred weakly on the bed. The data, we can't let them have it. Saren leaned close. Rest, mother. We'll protect it. What data? Kale asked, brow furrowing. Saren hesitated. My mother's research, classified Lemurian science. If it falls into the wrong hands, the war that ended 15 years ago could begin again. Kale grimaced. That's comforting. Saren's hands danced across the control surface. Engaging launch sequence. Strap in. The ship lifted smoothly, engines humming like a living creature. Through the viewport, Kale watched the desert shrink away, the storm-battered sands fading into the violet horizon. He'd spent years staring at those same dunes, convinced nothing beyond them mattered anymore. But now, with 3 glowing figures and a half-dead scientist aboard an alien courier, he felt the universe tilt beneath his feet. The Eclipsera, Saren's ship, punched through the upper atmosphere with barely a shudder. The sky turned black, dotted with stars. Kale sat back, muscles tense, as the hum of the engine steadied. So, he said finally, voice low. What happens now? Saren looked out the viewport. We go to Nexus Spire. It's neutral territory, Lemurian controlled but open to humans. My mother can be treated there, and her research secured. Kale nodded slowly. And me? You'll be under my protection, Saren said, glancing sideways at him. Which means you'll do as I say. He allowed himself a small grin. I'm not great at that. Her lips curved faintly. Then it will be an interesting journey. Behind them, little Tira had fallen asleep in her sister's arms, their lavender skin glowing faintly under the soft lights. Elora's breathing was slow but steady. Kale felt the weight of exhaustion settle over him, but beneath it, something else. Purpose. For the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving. He was protecting something worth the risk. Saren dimmed the cabin lights. You should rest, Kale Doran. There will be challenges ahead. He leaned back, watching her reflection in the viewport, her calm, her quiet strength, the faint aura of light that shimmered beneath her skin. Somehow, he said, I don't doubt it. Outside, the stars stretched into streaks as the Eclipsera entered faster-than-light travel. The hum of the ship deepened, a heartbeat of metal and energy. Kale closed his eyes and let the sound carry him forward into the unknown. Behind him, Saren stood silently for a while, watching the human who had risked his life for her family. Her hand hovered near the bulkhead, where faint tendrils of light pulsed beneath her skin in time with her heart. It seems, she whispered to no one, the universe isn't done with us yet. The Eclipsera cruised through the dark folds of space like a drifting shard of glass, its engine hum almost melodic. Kale sat in the co-pilot seat, staring through the viewport at the streaks of blue light from the hyperlane. It had been years since he'd left a planet's surface, years since he'd heard the soft, constant thrum of a ship's heart. Saren Vallis moved beside him, her fingers dancing gracefully across the holographic controls. The dim cabin light shimmered against her lavender skin, the faint glow beneath it pulsing in rhythm with her concentration. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was quiet but steady. "My mother's vitals are stabilizing," she said. "But the infection is spreading. The nanocytes are fighting her, not healing her." Kale frowned. "I thought your tech was supposed to be flawless." "It is," she said softly, "unless the infection isn't an illness, but a code." He turned to look at her. "A code?" Saren exhaled. "My mother, Elora, isn't just a xenobiologist. She was leading a classified research project on the Voric genome. The official story said they were destroyed after the war, but she found evidence that they were being bred again, modified by the hegemony." Kale's stomach tightened. "Weaponized?" "Exactly. She found something in their neural structure, an exploitable weakness. She encoded the data inside her own DNA to keep it from being stolen. That's what's killing her now." Kale leaned back, letting out a low whistle. "That's genius. And insane." Saren gave a tired smile. "With my mother, those are the same thing." He rubbed his jaw. "So whoever's after her, those scavengers, the Krell, they weren't there for her. They were there for what's inside her." "Correct." Saren tapped the console and brought up a schematic of a massive station shaped like a gleaming wheel. "Nexus Spire. It's the only Lemurian outpost with the tech to decode her safely. We'll reach it in 8 hours." Kale nodded slowly. "And you trust the people there?" "I used to," she said. "But power changes even the purest minds." Before Kale could respond, the ship's console chimed, an incoming transmission. Saren's expression hardened as she accepted the call. The holodisplay flared to life, revealing an older Lemurian male with silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through the projection. His insignia marked him as a High Counselor. "Attaché Valis," he said curtly. "Your departure from the diplomatic sector was unauthorized." "High Counselor Peren," Saren greeted coolly. "My family's outpost was attacked. I acted on a distress signal." "Your family?" His gaze narrowed. "They were presumed dead. How convenient that they resurface now, along with a human." His eyes flicked toward Kale with open disdain. "Explain yourself, soldier." Kale folded his arms. "Not sure I answer to you." Peren's mouth tightened. "Typical human arrogance. Typical bureaucratic tone," Kale shot back. Saren interjected, her voice calm but firm. "He saved my family from Krell hunters. He's under my protection." Peren ignored her. "You're aware that bringing a non-diplomatic human to Nexus violates Council protocol?" "I'm invoking Emergency Clause 7, she said. "Family extraction under hostile conditions." The counselor hesitated, then nodded stiffly. "Very well. But upon arrival, the human remains under quarantine. And you, attaché, will answer to the council directly." The hollow faded. Kale let out a breath. "He seems fun." Saren gave a humorless laugh. "Peren represents the conservative bloc, those who still see humanity as volatile, dangerous." "Well," Kale said dryly, "they're not wrong." She smiled faintly despite herself. "He doesn't fear what you are, Kale Doran. He fears what you represent, a man who acts from instinct, not order." Their eyes met, and for a moment the hum of the ship filled the silence between them. Her skin glowed faintly where her fingers brushed the console, the light reflecting off her cheekbones. "Tell me something," Kale said quietly. "Why did you really come for your mother?" "Orders. Duty." Saren's gaze softened. "Because she's all I have left. And because she believes compassion is the universe's most dangerous weapon." She turned back to the controls, breaking the intensity. "Now I see she may be right." Before Kale could reply, a shrill alarm cut through the cabin. The navigation display flared red. Ship on intercept course, Saren said, voice tightening. Kale leaned forward. Let me guess, not friendly. A sleek, predatory silhouette appeared on the screen, a Krell Talon-class pursuit ship, dark as obsidian, its engines burning with violet light. Bounty hunter, Kale muttered. Top tier. Expensive. Saren's hands flew over the controls. He's locking on. Then we shake him off. Kale's soldier's instincts surged back like old blood. You got weapons? One pulse cannon. Barely defensive. He grinned. That'll do. Saren accelerated sharply, the Eclipsera diving toward a nearby asteroid belt. Chunks of rock spun in wild orbits, shadows flickering across their hull. Plasma fire streaked past the viewport, close enough to make the glass glow white-hot. He's fast, Kale said through clenched teeth. I'm faster, Saren countered. Her hands moved with impossible precision, weaving between tumbling boulders. The ship twisted, rolled, skimmed within meters of the stone. Kale braced himself and activated the cannon controls. The targeting reticle danced erratically, his fingers steadying the aim. Wait, wait, he murmured as the hunter's ship swung into view through a gap in the rocks. Now. He fired. The pulse cannon spat a bolt of white-blue energy, striking the hunter's maneuvering thruster. The enemy ship spun violently, scraping against an asteroid and losing control. Got him, Kale said. For now, Saren replied. We're nearly at Nexus. The Eclipsera burst from the asteroid field into open space. Ahead, the massive wheel-shaped station glimmered like a jewel, Nexus Spire, hub of diplomacy, trade, and secrets. Kale exhaled slowly. Looks peaceful enough. Peace, Saren said quietly, is usually just the silence before another storm. Her words lingered as the docking clamps extended and the ship aligned with the station's berth. Elora rested quietly in the medbay, her breathing shallow but steady. Lyra and Tira sat beside her, holding hands. Kale lingered by the viewport, staring at the endless black beyond. He wasn't sure what awaited him inside that shining fortress, but his gut told him it wouldn't be safety. Saren appeared beside him, her reflection mirrored in the glass. Whatever happens, she said softly, thank you, for not turning us away. He met her gaze. Wasn't much of a choice. There's always a choice, she replied. And you made the right one. The ship docked with a soft metallic thud. Kale straightened, his hand unconsciously brushing the sidearm at his belt. Saren noticed and gave him a faint smile. Relax, soldier. Nexus Spire isn't a battlefield. Not yet, he said quietly. She didn't argue. The doors hissed open, flooding the cabin with bright white light. Beyond it lay polished corridors, guards in silver armor, and the cold eyes of a civilization that still didn't know what to make of humanity. Kale stepped forward beside Saren Vallis, not realizing that this walk down the ramp would mark the start of a revolution that would echo across the stars. The corridor beyond the docking ramp was sterile and gleaming, its curved walls lined with veins of pale light that pulsed like the heartbeat of the station. Nexus Spire was beautiful, but cold, the kind of beauty that made Kale's soldiers' instincts twitch. For Lemurian security officers awaited them, their silver armor polished to a mirror sheen. The lead officer, a tall male with sharp features, inclined his head. Attaché Saren Vallis, he said crisply. High Counselor Perrin has ordered special security protocols for your arrival. My mother requires immediate medical attention, Saren replied, her tone pure diplomacy. She's critically ill. We're aware, the officer said. His gaze shifted to Kale. The human will be escorted to diplomatic quarantine for processing. Kale stiffened. Processing? Saren placed a calming hand on his arm. Captain Thalen, this man saved my family's lives. He stays with us. The captain hesitated. Counselor Perrin's orders are explicit. Before the tension could sharpen further, a calm female voice cut through the air. Then perhaps the counselor won't mind if I invoke medical override protocol. A woman stepped forward, Lemurian, dressed in pale blue robes with the insignia of a senior physician. Her lavender skin shimmered faintly beneath the lights. Dr. Neris Ven, she introduced herself. Chief of Xenobiological Medicine. I'll take responsibility for the human. He'll serve as my assistant while I stabilize the patient. Thalen looked displeased but inclined his head. Very well. But he remains under your supervision. Saren exhaled quietly as they followed Neris through a web of hallways. The medical wing of Nexus Spire felt warmer than the rest of the station, filled with soft blue light and the scent of sterilized air. Elora was transferred into a treatment pod where medical drones hummed around her like metallic insects. When the doors sealed behind them, Dr. Neris's composure slipped, replaced by something urgent. We don't have much time, she said, lowering her voice. Peren knows about the data inside your mother. He's already contacted the hegemony envoy on station. They're planning to extract it, by force if necessary. Saren's expression darkened. How do you know this? Because they offered me a place in their research program, Neris admitted grimly. But I played along to find out what they were planning. Kale folded his arms. And? They intend to eliminate Elora once they have the information. The procedure Peren authorized will kill her. Saren's hands curled into fists. Then we take her off the station. Impossible, said Neris. Her vitals are too unstable. The only chance is to extract the data here, but in a lab I control, not theirs. Then we move now, Kale said. The doctor nodded. There's a secure sublab beneath the med sector. I can isolate the systems there. But once we start, Peren will know. Let him, Kale muttered. Saren turned to him. I need you to protect the lab while we work. Can you do that? He smirked faintly. Protecting people from arrogant politicians? I was born for it. Within minutes, they transferred Elora to a mobile medical capsule and slipped through a maintenance corridor. The children had been left safely under guard in Saren's quarters, unaware of the danger unfolding. The sublab was small but secure, walls lined with data conduits and glowing monitors. As Dr. Neris calibrated the extraction device, Saren stayed at her mother's side, holding her hand. Elora's eyes fluttered open, her voice barely a whisper. They know about the code. Rest, mother, Saren murmured. We'll finish what you started. Elora's faint glow flickered. Be careful, child. Not everyone who smiles is a friend. Moments later, alarms blared. Kale cursed under his breath, checking the display feed. Security detail inbound, 3 squads, plus 2 unidentified hegemony signatures. Peren's making his move, Neris said tightly. Saren straightened, her diplomat's composure hardening into steel. Then we hold our ground. Kale positioned himself at the entrance, rifle raised. The corridor outside echoed with the thud of armored boots. The first security drone rolled into view, and Kale shot it clean through the optical core. Sparks erupted, and chaos followed. The door burst open, and 2 hegemony agents surged through, tall, silver-skinned humanoids with elongated eyes and plasma pistols. Kale dropped one before it even fired. The second returned a volley, grazing his shoulder with a searing beam. He gritted his teeth, fired twice, and silence fell again. Status? Saren called. Still breathing, Kale grunted. They'll send more. Inside the lab, Elora's capsule pulsed with soft light. The data, almost ready, Dr. Neris said, her fingers flying across the controls. But we need a few more minutes. Saren joined Kale by the door, taking his side. He glanced at her, at the faint glow of adrenaline beneath her skin, at the unwavering calm in her eyes, and couldn't help the strange mix of admiration and awe rising in him. You should be in politics, he said. I am in politics, she replied, raising one of the confiscated blasters. Just not the kind they teach in schools. The corridor trembled. Outside, a deeper alarm began to sound, station breach. Kale checked the feed and swore. The Krell bounty hunter's back. And he's brought friends. Saren paled. They're docking directly onto Nexus Spire. Kale's eyes met hers. We can't fight them all. But we can end this another way. He turned to Dr. Neris. Can you uplink that data to the station network? I can, she said, but it'll trigger every alarm in the system. That's the point, Kale replied. Elra's voice came, faint but clear. Yes, broadcast it. The truth must live, even if I don't. Saren hesitated, torn between duty and fear. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. You said compassion's the most dangerous weapon. Prove it. Something in his voice steadied her. Saren strode to the terminal, entering her access codes. Initiating global transmission override. The door burst open again, and Counselor Perrin stepped in flanked by guards, his expression a mask of fury. Stop this madness. You'll undo everything we've built. What you built was corruption, Saren snapped. We're building something new. Kale fired a warning shot that ricocheted off the wall beside Perrin's head. Step back, old man. Perrin sneered. You think a single human can change the order of the galaxy? Kale smiled grimly. Guess we'll find out. The broadcast light flared across the lab, illuminating every face in silver-blue glow. Neris shouted, transmission live. Across the sector, the feed spread, Elra's research on the Voric genome, the proof of the hegemony's secret breeding programs, the Council's complicity. Within seconds, millions of receivers, from Earth to Lemuria, received the data. Perrin lunged toward the console, but it was too late. The signal was out. The station shook violently as external explosions rocked the docking bays. Kale braced himself, shielding Saren as debris rained from the ceiling. When the tremors subsided, the lab lights flickered back to life. Neris looked up, eyes wide. It's done. They can't silence it now. Elra exhaled weakly, her glow steadying. Then maybe, there's hope again. Security forces loyal to the Council stormed in moments later, arresting Perrin and the hegemony agents. The rebellion inside Nexus had already begun. An hour later, the chaos quieted. Saren stood beside Kale in the medical ward, her mother now resting peacefully, her vitals strong for the first time in weeks. Chief Counselor Talon, an older Lemurian with kind eyes, entered the room. You've changed the course of our history, Attaché Valis, and you, Mr. Doran. Kale gave a half-smile. Wasn't aiming that high. The best revolutions, Talon said, never are. He turned to Saren. The Council has voted. Perrin is removed from office. And we would like to offer your human ally a permanent role, as liaison between our species. Kale blinked. I'm no diplomat. Saren's lips curved softly. Maybe not. But you understand what peace costs. That's more than most politicians ever learn. Talon inclined his head. Consider it, Kale Doran. We need bridge builders now, not warriors. When he left, silence settled between them. Kale looked at Saren, her lavender glow gentle in the medbay light. So, he said quietly, what happens to us? She stepped closer, her eyes luminous. We keep building. Together. Her fingers brushed his, and the contact sent warmth coursing through him, real, alive. He didn't pull away. 6 months later, Kale stood with Saren on the observation deck of Nexus Spire's new human Lemurian Cultural Center. The galaxy had changed. The hegemony had fallen silent, its grip broken. Elra's research was saving lives instead of destroying them. Below, ships from a dozen worlds docked peacefully side by side. Lyra and Tira ran through the atrium, laughter echoing like music. Saren slipped her arm around his waist. Do you ever miss the quiet on Sarah 9? Kale smiled, watching the stars. Not for a second. She leaned her head on his shoulder. My grandmother used to say the universe puts us exactly where we need to be, even when we don't understand why. Kale chuckled. On Earth, we call that luck. Luck, fate, compassion, maybe they're all the same thing. He looked down at her, at the shimmer of light beneath her lavender skin, and felt something settle in him, something he hadn't known he'd lost, peace. Whatever it is, he murmured, I'm glad it brought you to my door. They stood in silence, watching the cosmos breathe beyond the glass, two souls from different worlds bound by a single choice. A door opened in a storm, and the universe changed because of it. And that's how one man's act of compassion turned into a ripple that reshaped the stars. Kale Doran never planned to become a hero, never thought that offering shelter during a sandstorm would ignite a revolution. But sometimes, the smallest decisions, ones made in the quiet of survival, end up echoing through history. The Lemurians rebuilt their trust in humanity. The hegemony's shadow retreated into myth. And on Nexus Spire, new generations grew up believing that peace wasn't just an illusion, it was something worth fighting for, worth feeling for. Kale and Saren became more than symbols, they became a reminder that empathy can cross galaxies, that kindness is stronger than fear, and that love doesn't care about skin color, species, or history. It only needs a single chance, a single open door. If you enjoyed this story, if it made you pause, smile, or dream a little, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button, share this video with your fellow sci-fi dreamers, and help us spread more stories of hope and humanity among the stars. Until next time, keep your hearts open, your engines charged, and remember, even in the coldest void, compassion burns brighter than any sun.